When you think of great instrumental progressive rock albums, Rick Wakeman's The Six Wives of Henry VIII or Mike Oldfield's Tubular Bells might come to mind. In this two-part episode of my prog rock show, I'm going to discuss 10 obscure prog rock albums, hopefully ones that you've never heard of before. The 10 albums I will be discussing are in no particular order, as I avoid ranking prog albums because it seems like everyone else has that covered. Let's dive in. Atlas was a Swedish band formed in 1973, influenced by many progressive rock artists of the time. They would eventually sign with the fledgling record label Bellatrix. Their debut Bla Vardag, which I'm probably mispronouncing, would be released in the fall of 1979. Only 1,200 copies were printed and the band would split up a year later. Despite all of that, this album is one of the finest instrumental prog albums I have ever heard. Atlas features two keyboardists creating a very rich sound. Perhaps to some it may sound like elevator music, but for me it is an absolute thrill ride. The interplay between the guitar and keyboards is nothing short of inspirational. The 14-minute epic Pageta, which I'm probably mispronouncing, really shows off the band's virtuosity and composing skills. There is not a boring second. The CD comes with a few bonus tracks that show what could have been, and even one recorded in 1995 demonstrating that they could still create wonderful music. I highly recommend this album. Marian Varga and Collegium Musicum was a live album released by Slovak band Collegium Musicum in 1975. Varga was the keyboardist and centerpiece of the band, usually compared to the likes of Emerson and Wakeman. He mostly sticks to organ with a little piano, both played with expertise. I wish I could tell you more about the band, but the liner notes in the CD are written in Slovak, and it's been a while since I brushed up on my Slovak. Album Marian Varga, a Collegium Musicum, Nevznikol z Najakiho Tv. I can't understand any of this. The classical influences are very apparent. The bass, drums, and guitar are all given time to shine, showing off a very well-rounded group of musicians, and to not make it all about Varga. As live recordings go, this is a very well-recorded album. If not for some applause, you might not even know it was recorded outside of a studio. Marian Varga and Collegium Musicum is definitely worth giving a thorough listen to. Swedish band Dice was formed in 1972 with a suspiciously Disney-esque logo. I'm surprised Disney didn't sue their ass. The Four Riders of the Apocalypse was actually recorded as a demo in January of 1977, preceding their one and only self-titled album. It wouldn't officially be released until 1992. The album was recorded in 4 movements: war, disease, greed, and death. For a first attempt at recording, this album is very mature and well thought out. You'd almost think this was their second recording. Apparently the album was recorded in 40 cuts and spliced together, but it comes across seamlessly. Dice play with a very adequate skill level with excellent guitar and keyboard interaction. Even though the concept is dark, there are plenty of light moments and great peaks and valleys. There is also a bonus track with vocals that is not bad. I just want to give you a warning about the bonus track with vocals, so you don't accuse me of lying in the comments section, if I ever got any comments in the comments section. Anyway, Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse was also recorded live in 1977 for national radio. This has also been released on CD. Griffin's 1974 album, Red Queen to Griffin 3, is probably going to be the most well-known album on the list. The concept is loosely based on a game of chess. I don't play chess, but if I did, I probably would suck at that too, like I do checkers. Griffin is known for their classical folky sound and unique instrumentation, even including a crumhorn. What's a crumhorn? Red Queen to Griffin 3 is probably regarded as their best album, and rightfully so. During this time, they would sign on with Yes and Rick Wakeman manager Brian Lane. Griffin would adopt a more Yes-like sound, adding vocals back in, which I also enjoyed. I would say that Red Queen to Griffin 3 is probably an essential prog album. Since this has 2 albums on one CD, I will talk about both. The Pink Mice were formed as a very progressive offshoot of German band Lucifer's Friend, which I am not, just for the record. They released 2 albums which are progressive covers of classical music from the likes of Bach, Beethoven, Haydn, Mozart, and Tchaikovsky. Their first album, In Action, released in 1971, was mostly organ and piano driven, with well-played guitar trading off on leads. Their second album, appropriately named In Synthesizer Sound, released in 1973, is very much dominated by synthesizer sounds. Their first album, In Action, is a much better regarded album. Their second album kind of got shredded in reviews because it's sort of like elevator music, although I think the playing and arrangements are very impressive. Me personally, I kind of prefer the second album, but I do understand why people regard the first album much higher. This particular release comes with a family tree of sorts, connecting the band a few degrees from Uriah Heep and Ozzy Osbourne. I suppose you could do that with any prog band. So give the Pink Mice a listen. It might not be everybody's cup of tea, but personally, I think it's awesome. This marks the end of part 1. If you'd like to guess as to the prog albums that are going to be in part 2 of this video, then let me know in the comments section below. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you on the second part.
What's wrong with you, man?